Hello there. The wheels are really falling off of the SNP cart, or more accurately, the wheels are falling off of their luxurious motorhome battle bus. How much longer can this go on? What fresh entertainment we have from the SNP. After all the lecturing we had from them about the antics of Westminster, we now have a second arrest of someone amongst the ranks of the SNP. Looks more and more like some in the SNP have been taking Scotland for one big ride. Yes, Police Scotland announced this morning that they'd now arrested a 71-year-old man as a suspect in connection with the ongoing investigation into the funding and finances of the Scottish National Party. And that person is the party's treasurer and member of the Scottish Parliament, Colin Beattie. So although not a well-known name across much of the land, he is a big fish in SNP terms. And this comes after the arrest and later release without charges of Nicola Sturgeon's husband and former chief exec of the SNP, Peter Murrell, and the revelation of a rather grand so-called battle bus at the home of Sturgeon's mother-in-law. So much for the chances of the new First Minister Humza Yousaf to make his mark, laying out his priorities for Scotland in this afternoon's speech in Holyrood. So Nicola Sturgeon is staying at home and working remotely, the Treasurer is in the police station answering questions, and no one cares what the new First Minister is talking about. But get this, the SNP bigwigs are not censuring or suspending anyone. Why not? Suddenly, it's all talk about innocent until proven guilty. That's not the language they used when Partygate was all the rage. And that was just over cake. These revelations from Holyrood appear to be far more serious. Especially when even after 6 months of trying, they can't source an external auditor. And as a result, many of those who would have followed their Nicola over a cliff have suddenly decided that's not such a good idea. With the Telegraph reporting that party insiders feel furious that they may have been totally misled. With some of her arch supporters now asking, what's going on? Well, that's a question you should have been asking after the first of her policy failures. Not only that, but there was talk of Sturgeon being a radioactive political cloud that would hang over Humza Yousaf for months. And if members are leaving in the numbers that some suspect, then the SNP financial position can only get worse and worse. Someone said it looks like lions being led by donkeys. Sounds to me more like sheep being sheared by wolves. Anyway, this must be causing the SNP administration in Holyrood to lose credibility. And if there's much more of this, then the SNP will lose all justification to exercise power. Maybe it's time for Westminster to step in with special measures. But one thing's now for sure, there'll be no Holyrood statue for Nicola and no top international job or seat in the House of Lords either. And while the SNP has been providing the entertainment, a standards investigation into the PM Rishi Sunak barely registers on the radar. A debate on the future of WHO control over our healthcare system took place with little fanfare, and those who've been harmed by rolling their sleeves up have been hung out to dry. Now, in any other time in history, a standards investigation into the UK Prime Minister would have just about dominated the news. Yes, I know it looks like a minor infraction, if any, but the lefty press letting Rishi Sunak, a supposedly Tory MP, off so lightly would normally have been unbelievable. But there again, maybe they quite like him. After all, Despite all his words and those of his team, there is very little action from them that bears any resemblance to that expected of a Conservative and Unionist party. So a bit of a damp squib all round. Although if the Tories do start clawing their way back in the polls, we might see the press sharpening their pencils again. Now, one government petition gained enough signatures to get it debated in Parliament, and that's the UK potentially signing up to give the WHO full control of our healthcare responses during any future health emergency. This has the potential to give WHO officials the power to bypass our democracy and shut us in our homes, dictate what medicines we use, and decide on whether or not they become mandatory for us. Or at least they could try to do that. But this parliamentary debate wasn't held in the House of Commons or in the House of Lords. No, it was a debate in Westminster Hall, so no voting and no democratic decisions made and no accountability. One MP was there making his views known, and that was Andrew Bridgen, putting forward the unassailable argument that our government should not be outsourcing these things to unelected and unaccountable faceless officials that don't even live here. He also pointed out that the WHO admits in one of its reports that those private individuals and organisations that pay money into the coffers of that organisations, and we know some of those, have more say on WHO policy than the representatives of the member states do. And that inevitably includes the vested interests of Big Pharma. It would be unconscionable for the UK government, aided and abetted by a supine opposition, to surrender that level of sovereignty to what is in effect a foreign, supranational organisation funded by private vested organisations that have far more say on health policy than any of the ordinary voters do. Not only that, after the last incident, I don't see too many people being very happy to go through another set of stay-at-home orders and all the rest of it. Especially if they once again watch the great and good swanning about the globe from one sumptuous gig to another at will, all at taxpayer expense, while the rest of us are forced to stay at home. But looking at many other attendees at that debate, I get the feeling they will be more than happy to get rid of the responsibility. Their body language was all too clear. So there's a list of 4,000 applicants, so far, claiming they have been harmed after doing their duty and rolling their sleeves up. But only 63 of them have been approved. And 512 of the claims are over a year old and 144 are over a year and a half old. Now compare that to what got them there. The speed of the UK rollout is a constant claim of triumph from government, millions of doses given and billions upon billions spent on it. And now we have this utter shambles, all because the establishment is too frightened to admit the mistakes. Probably because it runs far deeper than we're told, with more far-reaching implications. And the last thing they want is for people to start asking searching questions. Heaven forfend, they might then start following the money, and that will never do. Another case where those affected are meant to shut up for the sake of, well, fill in the blanks. And this is where we're going. The experts will decide what's best for us. We will have to comply, and if it hurts us, that's just tough. You have no choice, because it's all for the benefit of the masses, under the new Marxism. You can see it going on around us right now, from net zero to travel to food production to education. The ratchet of control over our lives takes yet another notch tighter.